we're gonna try to tackle this gargantuan topic. It's the video game equivalent of religion versus science. But first, we've gotta ask the question.
What the fuck exactly is a fighting game?
Now, if you go by the literal meaning of the words, then you can just say what? Any conflict-based entertainment.
But that does nothing for no one. So let's get real. Really real. Really
Thesis statement. You can't make a list of rules on what makes a fighter a fighter.
You can only judge a game on its fighting gaming.
Totally not the best word, but we don't have to explain its meaning. We get it, and that's all we can really add.
Now, let's say we compared Street Fighter 2 to Smash Bros. Melee. We can look at them side by side and point out similarities, but many of these would be traits that were not inherent to fighters exclusively. We can't really say, well, both games have jumping, blocking, and combos, because so does Devil May Cry, and Sin and Punishment. Them ain't no fight games! We can only establish things based on whether or not they increase or decrease the fighting gaminess of a game, and the sum of these determines an outcome. Here's one such statement.
Fighting games usually have the players exclusively focused on each other, and not the stage, environment, or any nearby power-ups. This basically means that the two fighting mans are circling around each other, no shit's given to anything else. The camera and movement and controls are all constantly adjusting themselves to better reflect this, instead of letting you turn your back to the opponent, or just wandering off into the background, leaving everyone confused and disoriented. There are, however, a lot of good fighters that do let you turn your back, and do give you some leeway to move around. But the most established fighters follow the same rules. This doesn't take away from fighters that do allow it, like Bushido Blade or Naruto Net Hero. But if you took away one of the players, a random spectator might just confuse the gameplay for an adventure game or a platformer. Points like this can only be a single tile in the grand mosaic. Because hey, really? Show me a list of hard, genre-defining rules, and I will totally show you a legit fighter that breaks that list hard. One of humanity's greatest superpowers is our ability to categorize information. We can do so based on common denominators and things that scream out at us. C-drives, /animals, /dogs, /puggles. But when we approach the edge of the container, we look and we see that there's no walls, really. There's just more like a fog of war. It grows increasingly thick as you go further in. What I'm basically trying to say is, Mega Man 7 had a versus mode, sure, but is that a fighter? Doesn't seem like it? Well then, how about Rockman the Power Battles? No? Okay, well then what are you gonna say about Peacock versus Peacock in Skullgirls?
This is the reason that people question whether Smash Bros. Games are fighters at all. There's tons of invisible rules like these that we just don't notice or think about until they're gone. And even then we can't pinpoint it. We just vaguely say, oh, well, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like a fighting game to me. IMHO! Likewise, the number of players in the game is also a common expectation. 2 players feels the most fighting gamey. And are there 4-player fighters? Sure are. If not, Power Stone 1 would qualify, but Power Stone 2 would not. Are there 8-player fighting games though? If there are, their fighting gaminess would feel significantly lower as a result.
So what are we trying to get at here?
A sensible analysis of points for and against Smash Bros. Inclusion in
the fighting game pantheon.
On the left, we've got the points against Smash Bros. As a legit fighter.
On the right, we've got the points for it.
First off, in the not a fighter column is the obvious. A plethora of items that appear at random, greatly hindering raw player skill from determining the outcome. When super attacks were eventually included, even they came in the form of items.
But on the is a fighter column, we can chalk up the fact that items can be turned off, with the exceptions that we'll get into later. This sort of negates the items argument altogether.
Similarly, stage hazards and forced platforming are in the game. They can completely kill you independent of your opponent's skill. But again, you can remove these from play, or at the very least, restrict them based on neutrality.
Life bars are a pretty recognizable element of fighting games. Anything without one rightfully raises some questions. However, DBZ The Legend featured a power balance meter that determined the outcome more than the life bars. A fighter's destiny has a simultaneous point system that awarded different types of knockdowns. We have seen various fighters flipping the script before.
We can't ignore the fact that the currency of staple, recognizable fighting game strategies happens to also be worth a lot in the world of Smash Bros. You will win more often if you do use footsies, option selects, frame traps, throw mix-ups, and everything the game has to offer. For those of you who can't get over the all-ages subject matter,
Also known as the "what the fuck is this preschool diaper baby bullshit" effect.
give it a rest. That's not a valid point. There are games out there with themes that you can't even fathom.
俺様を誰だと思ってやる。そう短冊切り血だらけだぜ。ギッタギタにしてやるぜ。
Each of the games in this series features moves that are a total homage to classic fighting game styles. More than any other video game archetypes, Mario is a Shodown.
Also, on the is a fighter side, fundamentals of play rely on rock, paper, scissors mentality and honing your prediction and reaction skills. Any competitive game has these elements. Smash Bros. Has them in spades.
Maneuvering and defending at a high level in Smash is reminiscent of the advanced tactics that other competitive fighters have. Wave dashing, zoning, and guard breaking are all native terms to the fighting game community. And again, Nintendo's fighting franchise does have them. Moving on.
Whoa, we're not even done with the high level stuff yet. Smash Bros. Has matchups. Matchups are what we call the expected outcome and essential information in regards to two given fighters squaring off. Fighting games tend to have a character variety, and this affects the outcome more than how close you spawn to a mineral deposit, rocket launcher, or a good camping site.
But contrary to all these points, the biggest knock against Smash Bros. Is the fact that Nintendo and Sakurai don't really want it to be a hardcore fighting game. Even if you disable all items and limit the stages, they go as far as to include a chance that your character can slip and fall during gameplay. In certain circumstances, you can even pull out an item that's been turned off. This really brings into question how much the creator's intent determines what a game is versus how the fans receive it. It should be noted, however, that the creators of Street Fighter 2 had no idea that they were inadvertently putting combos into the game. They only came about as a result of players choosing to play the game the way that they wanted to.
Now, there's a whole scene of people playing this game seriously, having tournaments, making money, flying across continents to prove that yes, they can chain grab space animals all day. They're performing tactics that not many people understand, breaking down matchups and using an entire vocabulary of very specific lingo that fits right in alongside terms used by the fighting game community, like salty, Pringles, and getting R-Kelly'd! If there's people dedicated to doing this competitively year after year, there's gotta be a reason why.
Hello, I'm Chester.
Hi, I'm Kage the Warrior.
Now, as long-lasting members from the Smash community, we would like to thank Fighterpedia for talking about the Smash Bros. Series. But in these dark, pressing times, we figured that there were some delicate issues that we would like to talk about. We are really happy that you acknowledge that Smash is a fighting series, but some differences must be made between Brawl and Melee.
Brawl destroys families. Few people will forget the dark day Brawl entered their lives. It just didn't live up to the legacy of Melee.
People living with Brawl addiction may suffer from the following symptoms: lack of hit stun,
Loss of balance,
reduced combo creativity,
simple-mindedness,
post-traumatic Meta Knight dizziness,
overwhelming fraudulence,
lack of Zubaz.
boredom, and more.
But you can help put a stop to this. Contact your local Nintendo congressman and tell them that you will not stand for this travesty in your community.
If you need help organizing an intervention for your friends, contact us. We have a team of trained experts with modded Wiis ready at your disposal.
Now, while we acknowledge that it is an amazing thing to have Solid Snake in a fighting game, if you must use Brawl, do so in moderation. Together, we can make a difference.